Welcome, my lords, to the White City, where you will learn more about Middle-earth and discover differences and similarities between the Rings of Power show and Tolkien's books, and whether Amazon's show, episode by episode, is worth watching. I'm Philip Dutt, your host, and I'll be joined by Matt Vandervoort and Mark Schaefer. I hope you enjoy. A topic to move on to next, I was thinking, is about Numenorian politics. I guess a few characters that stood out to me, being Tar-Pharazôn, Elendil, and the Queen Regent. So far, do you guys like how they've portrayed Tar-Pharazôn? There's not really much we can necessarily go off. I feel like they really didn't go in depth with him, but there's definitely thinking about just the difference between him and the line of the faithful and all. That's I guess gonna be a pretty big thing for an upcoming episode.
One note I will make is that it's Ar-Pharazôn because Tar-Pharazôn is the prefix used by the faithful, and Tar-Palantir is the first king to use it in a long time and the last king to use it, because Ar-Pharazôn goes hardcore the other direction. So
Also, I believe it's just Pharazôn right now, and R is what they add when they become king. So in the show, king, I think right now he's known as just Pharazôn.
Just Pharazôn, which,
catch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'll go first in that. I think the Numenorian politics, I think is probably what has me most excited for season 2. I think if there were some characters I think they nailed, it would be like Elendil, Pharazôn. Seems like they've got these both of these characters down, and I think if I could I think how they're sort of explaining Numenorian politics right now is sort of not really how Tolkien gets there. He has this where they become colonizers and start colonizing Middle Earth and stuff, and this really long history, and they seem to have taken this abbreviated version where they're they haven't gone to Middle Earth in a long time and stuff, but now they just make this single voyage. But I think how they're going to end up, or where they already are ending up, seems very close to where things sort of end up in Tolkien's world.
Yeah.
Where you have the King's Men and you have the Faithful, and it seems like where you have these characters played out. And I personally love Queen Muriel's interpretation. She's not really someone Tolkien talks about a lot, but this totally fits with what she could be portrayed as. And excited to sort of see where the rest of the show goes with that. One thing I will mention is that Elendil actually has a father, Amandil, who plays a very significant role in Numenorian politics in the future. Just really quick, he's sort of the main leader of the faithful, and also ends up taking a ship to Valinor to try to save the faithful. And the faithful believe that he's what ends up saving them when Numenor is destroyed, that the Valar send this wind that carries them away, and they believe that it was him interceding on their behalf that gets them there. Very a Christ-like, right? He dies for them and ends up saving them by his death. But yeah, I'm very curious to see. They obviously don't have this character, and maybe I want to hear your guys' thoughts of will Queen Muriel take this role? Will they find some other way to fulfill this role, or will they just totally ignore it? Do you guys think?
I don't know. I feel I could see them. This would be a huge departure from the books, but I could see them having Elendil fill that role, just because the timeline is incredibly condensed in the show, because they're trying to cover what in the books is 1,500 years of history in one human lifetime. So I could see them have if they want to have Elendil do the stuff he does in Middle Earth, he could go and help found these cities that eventually will become Arnor and Gondor, and then go back in time for the fall of Numenor. But I kind of doubt they'll do that plot point. I'm guessing they will just, I'm guessing they'll just have him. They'll just have the faithful escape, because it may even come down to what they can and can't use for legal reasons, because I don't believe his father is ever mentioned in The Lord of the Rings. Is he mentioned in the appendices? He might be mentioned in the
I
appendices.
think he's mentioned in the appendices.
Okay,
but
then
also,
maybe they do have the rights to him, but they might not have the rights to like portray him going off to the Undying Lands and explore that whole plot element. So they may just skip it for practical reasons. And also just time constraint on the story. There's certain elements that they might just have to cut out just for time.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought there might be a chance that Queen Muriel fulfills that role since
Yeah.
it's sort of she seems to be the other big player and maybe the leader of the faithful and also the one who ends up saving them by her life and death. I was gonna say it might be really interesting if they do avoid it because it might also be a difference in worldviews, right? I mean, like the
Yeah.
Christ analogy is very obvious in Tolkien's very Catholic worldview
Yeah.
coming through, and maybe their decision to avoid it.
Something that would be interesting if they did use Muriel for that is instead of having her go off separately, because I believe that Pharazôn kind of forcibly marries her to become king, it would be interesting if she decides to go with him when he sails off to the Undying Lands. She decides to go willingly, but in an attempt to carry out that mission rather than she goes separately to intercede. They could take that direction, which would be able to combine those sort of plot elements.
And her way of asserting control after being forcibly married, right, would also be a huge thing.
Because I think that, like, just regardless of worldview, like, everybody loves a good self-sacrifice story.
Yeah.
So I think that they might have reason to use that sort of plot point regardless of particular ideology or worldview or whatever.
Thanks for visiting the White City. Before you leave, please subscribe to our podcast and check us out at thewhitecitypodcast.com. Consider supporting my movement on Facebook, Keeping the Rings of Power Pure.